When you think about what a person with type 1 versus type 2 diabetes looks like, what comes to mind? Although common stereotypes suggest that those with type 1 are likely to be lean and those with type 2 tend to be heavy, weight status is not homogeneous among either type. Yet research on diabetes and weight remains largely unnuanced in this regard and has failed to consider how weight variation may affect illness-related outcomes. So our work investigates how differences in perceived weight influences the psychosocial well-being of individuals affected by diabetes. Now, stereotypes about those with type 2 being heavy stem in part from obesity being a causal risk factor for this disease. But public misconceptions still exist about high weight status. Many assume it's a consequence of personal health behavior, when in reality, its genetic underpinnings are more influential than we once thought. But as a corollary to type 2's causal link to obesity, affected individuals are often blamed for causing their own disease, which can be internalized. So, in our online survey, we were particularly interested in assessing self blame among those with type 2 and how this might be associated with perceived weight. In the upper right-hand graph, perceived weight was binary coded into lower or higher weight and analyzed by diabetes type. Now, looking at the blue line, we found that those with type 2 who had a lower weight blamed themselves less for their disease onset than those with type 2 who had a higher weight. And this indicates that when type 2 is paired with the phenotype of lower weight, affected individuals blame themselves less because their disease is no longer readily associated with this notion of personal responsibility. On the other hand, type 1 is seen as less controllable compared to type 2 and does not have an established causal link to obesity. So here we were interested to see how weight variation might play a role in the context of type 1. And we examined one pertinent marker of well-being labeled as negative affect in response to diabetes miscategorization. And this can occur when a person with diabetes is mistaken for the wrong type. In the lower right-hand graph, perceived weight is again binary coded and then analyzed by diabetes type. Now, looking at the red line, our analyses indicate that those with type 1 and a higher weight had more negative affect about being mistaken as the wrong type than those with type 1 and a lower weight. And this suggests that when type 1 diabetes is paired with the phenotype of higher weight, individuals are not only being mistaken for having type 2, but are also experiencing the negative connotations typically reserved for the other type. Taken together, weight status seems to be inextricably linked to psychological health outcomes for individuals with diabetes, but in very different ways. And this harkens back to the different nature of each disease type, as well as perceptions on what causes them. Future research needs to take this interaction into account and work towards correcting misconceptions surrounding the genetics of weight and diabetes, as they clearly have important consequences on the well-being of this population.